The Alien Princess in Chains. The war was over. After years of fighting between Earth and the alien Zerine Empire, there was finally peace. But peace had come with a heavy price. On a cold, gray landing platform in the middle of a desert, a large alien spaceship slowly opened its doors. A crowd of human soldiers and commanders stood in silence. Even the wind seemed to stop. Out of the ship came two tall alien guards. Between them walked a young woman, beautiful, proud, and afraid. Her wrists were in shining silver cuffs. Her long hair, glowing with soft light, flowed in the wind. Her eyes, bright blue like the stars, looked around with fear. She was the princess of the Zerine Empire, Kalara. The soldiers whispered to one another, "Is that really her? She's the gift. They're giving her to him." Kalara heard them. She didn't understand all the words, but she knew one thing. They were talking about the human warrior. The one they called the Butcher of Kestrel Base. The one who killed thousands of her people in the war. His name was Jace Ward. She had heard stories about him, how he fought without mercy, how he destroyed cities, how he never smiled. In her mind, humans were cruel, heartless beasts. And now, they were giving her to one of them. She was terrified. Kalara was led into a dark, silent building. The lights flickered. The air smelled like dust and oil. Human soldiers stayed quiet as she passed. Some looked at her with pity, others with cold eyes. Finally, they stopped in front of a metal door. The guard opened it. Inside was a simple room with stone walls and a small bed in the corner. But what caught her eyes was the man sitting on a bench, sharpening a knife with slow, careful movements. He looked up. Jace Ward. His face was rough, with scars from many battles. His eyes were sharp and dark, filled with something she couldn't understand. Pain, anger, or maybe nothing at all. He looked at her the way a hunter looks at a storm, calm, but ready. The guard stepped back. "She's yours now, per the treaty." Jace said nothing. Kalara stood there, not moving. She expected him to shout, to hurt her, to treat her like an object. But instead, Jace put the knife down and stood up. He was tall, strong. His armor was worn and dirty, but he moved like a soldier trained in war. He walked past her. For a moment, she flinched. She thought he was going to hit her. But he didn't. He picked up the key from the table and unlocked her cuffs. The silver cuffs dropped to the floor with a soft clang. "You're not my prisoner," Jace said in a quiet voice. "You're not my property either." Kalara stared at him, confused. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I don't want a peace gift. This isn't peace. It's politics." She didn't know what to say. "If you want to leave," he added, "the door's open. I won't stop you." He turned away and sat back down on the bench. Kalara looked at the door. It was true. It wasn't locked. But where would she go? The desert outside was endless. Her people had left her behind. And the humans, most would see her as the enemy. She didn't move. "Why?" she asked softly. "Why are you not angry? I am Zerine, your enemy." Jace didn't look at her. "The war ended. I'm tired of hating." That answer stayed in her mind for a long time. That night, Kalara sat in the corner of the room, far from him. She didn't sleep. She watched him. She watched how he cleaned his weapons, how he stared at the wall in silence, how he winced when he touched his side. A hidden wound. He didn't speak again. He didn't threaten her. He didn't even glance her way. He just sat there like a man who had lost something. And somehow, that scared her more than any blade ever could. The warrior who refuses to own her. The night was cold, and Kalara didn't sleep. She stayed curled in the corner of the small room, her eyes fixed on the human warrior who had refused to chain her, hurt her, or even speak much. He sat on his bench, leaning against the wall, one hand resting on a long knife. Every sound made her flinch. In her world, silence was never peaceful. Silence meant someone was planning something. But Jace Ward remained still. Just before dawn, he stood and walked to a small metal locker. He pulled out a blanket and, without saying a word, dropped it near her feet. Kalara stared at it. It smelled like dust and metal, but it was warm. She hesitated, then slowly pulled it around her shoulders. It was the first kind thing anyone had done for her in weeks. The next morning, Kalara awoke to the smell of something cooking. Her eyes opened slowly. Jace stood over a small stove in the corner of the room, flipping something in a pan. He looked over his shoulder. "You eat meat?" She nodded, unsure why she answered. He handed her a small plate. She took it carefully. It wasn't poisoned. It wasn't cold. It was real food. Kalara sat against the wall and took a bite. Her hands trembled. This wasn't how enemies treated each other. "Why?" she finally asked, breaking the silence. "Why what? Why are you being kind?" Jace sat back down. "Because I've seen enough cruelty. Feeding someone isn't kindness. It's just basic decency." Kalara frowned. "That's not what I was taught about humans." He gave a dry laugh. "And I was told your people eat babies. We were all lied to." She looked at him carefully. "You don't hate me." He shook his head. "I don't know you. I hated the war. That's enough." Later that day, Kalara explored the base. It was quiet, old, and mostly abandoned. Jace explained that it had been a frontline outpost during the war, but now it was forgotten. One hallway led to a locked door. She tried to open it, but it didn't budge. "That's storage," Jace said from behind her. "Not much in there." But his voice sounded off. He was hiding something. Kalara didn't ask. Not yet. Instead, she asked a different question. "What are you going to do with me?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "Nothing. You're not a prisoner." "Then what am I?" He paused. "I don't know. Maybe a guest. Maybe something else. That's up to you." That evening, Kalara stood outside, staring at the red sky. 2 moons rose slowly, their soft glow painting the sand silver. It was beautiful, but lonely. Jace joined her. "This world, it's empty," she whispered. "It's peaceful," he replied. "I was raised in palaces, marble towers, gold ceilings, but I was never free." Jace didn't speak. He just listened. "My people gave me to you like an object. Did they even ask what you wanted?" "No," he said. "They don't care what I want." Kalara's voice turned bitter. "They care about the treaty. About power, not peace." Jace turned to her. "I fought in this war since the first battle. I saw friends die. I saw cities burn. And in the end, they handed me a person like a trophy. Like that would fix everything." He paused, then added, "It doesn't fix anything." For the first time, Kalara saw not a monster, but a man who had lost too much. That night, she had a dream. Flames, screaming, her planet burning, and a man with cold eyes walking through the fire. She woke up gasping. Jace was already awake, sitting at the window, watching the sky. She didn't speak, but he handed her a small cup of water. No questions, no judgment, just silence and understanding. Days passed. Kalara helped clean the base, repaired broken lights, and even learned how to cook basic Earth meals. She watched Jace train with old weapons, his movements sharp and perfect. She saw the scars on his back, the pain in his eyes when he thought she wasn't looking. And she began to ask herself questions she never thought she'd ask. Who was this man? And why did being near him make her feel safe? One evening, Kalara noticed something odd. Jace was away on patrol. Curious, she returned to the locked door. This time, she used a tool she had hidden in her robes, an old alien hacking spike. The door opened. Inside was a small room filled with crates. But that wasn't what caught her attention. On the wall was a map. It showed several locations: Earth, the Zerine Empire, neutral zones. But one spot was marked in red, circled many times. A small, hidden moon in alien territory. Above it, written in Jace's rough handwriting, "They're still alive." Kalara's heart pounded. Who was still alive? She turned and found Jace standing in the doorway. He looked at her, then at the map. He didn't shout. Instead, he said one thing. They were children, refugees, left behind. I go there when I can. I bring them food. I try to help. Kalara's voice shook. Zerine children. Yes, he said quietly. I couldn't save them during the war, but I won't abandon them now. She stared at him. Everything she had been taught was falling apart. This human, this warrior, was more than she ever imagined. And for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what he might do. She was afraid of what she might feel. Secrets under the mountain. Kalara couldn't stop thinking about the map. That red circle. The words, "They're still alive." Each time she looked at Jace, more pieces of his mystery came together. He wasn't just a soldier. He wasn't just a man lost after war. He was something else. A protector. A ghost carrying guilt. She didn't ask more about the children. She just watched him more closely. Then, one early morning, she saw him gear up quietly. A backpack. Rations. A pulse blaster. He moved like a shadow through the base, thinking she was asleep. But Kalara wasn't. She followed him. The desert outside was quiet. No wind. No sounds. Only the twin moons above and the crunch of Jace's boots below. Kalara walked slowly behind him, keeping low, her alien cloak hiding her shape from the cold air sensors. Hours passed. Jace walked toward the jagged mountains, massive rocks rising like broken teeth from the earth. Kalara remembered the name from the map. The Spine. She had heard stories. Forbidden places. Ruins buried by war. What was he doing here? Finally, Jace stopped at a boulder. He scanned it with an old device, and a door opened in the rock face. Kalara held her breath. He went inside. She waited, then followed. Inside was dark, but warm. Lights flickered on as she walked through the ancient halls, half human, half alien design. Old tech sparked in the walls. Then, she heard laughter. Children. Alien children. She peeked into a room and gasped. There were 6 of them, small Zerine children with bright eyes and soft blue skin. They sat around a table as Jace handed them food packets and clean water. One girl hugged his leg. Uncle Jace. He smiled. A real smile. Kalara's throat tightened. She backed away before she was seen. She waited for him outside. When Jace emerged, carrying an empty backpack, she was standing with her arms crossed. "You never told me," she said quietly. He didn't act surprised. "You followed me. I had to know. Why are you doing this?" He looked up at the stars. "Because when I was a soldier, I destroyed one of their colonies. I followed orders. I believed they were all threats." He paused. His voice lowered. "But after the dust cleared, I found survivors. Children. Crying. Hiding. Starving." He met her eyes. "No one came for them. Not their empire. Not mine." Kalara felt like the ground was shifting under her feet. "I built this place for them," he said. "A shelter. A secret. Why not tell anyone?" "They'd see me as a traitor," he said. "Just like you were seen as a bargaining chip." She nodded slowly. "You saved them," she whispered. "I'm trying." A long silence passed between them. "I want to help," she said. Jace turned, surprised. "Why?" "Because maybe we both want to fix what was broken." Over the next days, Kalara worked beside Jace. She showed him how to fix old alien tech, using her royal education to repair broken filters, boost energy cells, and even create light shields around the base. The children were shy at first. Then one of them, a little boy named Harak, touched her hand and smiled. "You're like us," he said. Kalara blinked away tears. "Yes, I am." One night, Jace and Kalara sat near the edge of the mountain, looking down at the desert lights far away. "I don't understand," she said. "Why would humans want to execute you? You're helping." Jace gave a sad smile. "Because helping the enemy, even after peace, makes you suspicious." "Then what are we?" she asked. "Outcasts." Kalara looked at the stars. "Better than being puppets." Then her voice lowered. "I used to think all humans were monsters." Jace turned his head slightly. "And now?" he asked. She didn't answer with words. She leaned her head gently on his shoulder. And for once, Jace didn't pull away. But the peace wouldn't last. As they returned to the main outpost the next day, Kalara stopped in her tracks. A small mechanical drone buzzed silently near the base's roof. Its red light blinked once, then vanished into the sky. "What was that?" she asked. Jace's face turned pale. "Military surveillance drone. It saw us." He grabbed her hand. "We need to leave. Now." Betrayal from both sides. The moment the drone vanished, Kalara felt something cold settle in her chest. "They saw us," she whispered. Jace didn't answer. His jaw was clenched. His eyes scanned the sky like a hunted animal. He grabbed her arm, not roughly, but urgently. "We can't go back to the outpost," he said. "It's not safe anymore. If Command knows you're still with me, if they know what I'm doing." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Kalara nodded. "The children." "They'll be fine," he replied quickly. "They know how to hide. I've trained them. But we need to disappear. Now." They left the mountain base behind before the sun rose. No goodbyes. No plans. Only speed and silence. Jace led Kalara through deep canyons and abandoned tunnels left over from the war. She kept up, even when her legs ached and dust choked the air. Hours later, they'd reached a hidden cave. Once a weapons cache, now their only hope. Inside, Kalara collapsed against the wall. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from what she had seen in Jace. He wasn't just trying to protect children. He was protecting something else too. Her. And it terrified her in a new way. They rested in silence. Jace checked his gear, his rifle, his comms, his emergency beacons. Then he pulled out a small metal disc and held it in his hand. Kalara tilted her head. "What is that?" He didn't answer right away. His face looked torn, like he was about to reveal a secret that could never be taken back. "It's a kill order," he said softly. Kalara froze. "What?" Jace held the disc between two fingers. "I received it a week ago. From Command. A coded message. I wasn't supposed to tell you." She stood slowly. "A kill order for who?" He looked at her, and the answer was in his eyes. Kalara staggered back, her breath catching. "Me." Jace nodded slowly. "They said you were a threat, that the peace treaty was just a cover, that you knew too much, that if I eliminated you quietly, they'd reward me." He let the disc drop. It hit the floor with a sharp metallic ring. "I refused." Kalara looked down, her hands shaking. "So they've been watching us." "Always," he replied. "But they didn't expect me to care." She turned away, her voice raw. "My people gave me away like a gift. Your people sent you a kill code. Is that all we are? Tools. Pieces on a board." Jace stepped closer. "We don't have to be." She looked at him, her eyes wet with tears that refused to fall. "Then what are we?" He didn't answer. Not yet. That night, Kalara sat alone on a rock outside the cave. The sky was clear. Stars danced above her like tiny fires, too far to reach, but still burning. She thought of her mother's cold hands signing the treaty, of her father's silence, of the look in their eyes when they handed her over. Not as a daughter, not as a princess, as a tool. Then she remembered Rurak, the little alien boy in the hidden base. She remembered how he had smiled at her, like she mattered. And she remembered Jace, carrying food through sandstorms, fixing broken machines with bleeding hands, holding her wrist when she cried out in her sleep, never asking why. She didn't feel like a tool anymore. But that didn't mean she was safe. The next morning, everything changed. A message came through the emergency signal unit Jace carried. A voice crackled through. Low, clipped, dangerous. Captain Jace Ward, you are under arrest for treason. Lay down your arms. Surrender the alien. Extraction team arriving in 6 hours. Resist, and be terminated. Kaelara's heart pounded. What do we do? Jace didn't hesitate. We run. But just then, Kaelara's own comlink lit up. She had forgotten it was still embedded beneath her skin. A secret from her own side. The message was in her native tongue. Princess Kaelara, you have broken your purpose. Your blood is no longer royal. Return now, or be erased. She stared at it. Then she laughed. Bitter. Cold. They want me dead too. Now both were hunted. By humans. By aliens. They were alone. But they had each other. Jace packed faster, speaking without looking up. I know one place they won't follow. Where? He looked up. The refugee planet. They call it Drift. No armies. No flags. Just people trying to live. Kaelara nodded. I'll go with you, she said. But deep in her mind, something was rising. A plan. A dangerous, impossible idea. If both sides wanted them dead, what if they turned the tables? What if they exposed the lies? What if peace wasn't given, but taken? As the sun rose, Jace and Kaelara rode into the desert on a stolen transport bike, leaving behind everything they knew. Betrayed by both their worlds, but more alive than ever. Escape across the stars. The wind howled across the endless desert as Jace and Kaelara raced through the dunes on a stolen transport bike. The engine coughed and roared beneath them, leaving a trail of dust behind. The twin suns burned high above, but Kaelara didn't feel the heat. She was focused only on what lay ahead and what was chasing behind. 6 hours, that's what the message said. Now it had been 4. Behind them, deep in the sky, a black dot appeared. Fast. Growing larger. Kaelara looked over her shoulder. They're coming. Jace didn't slow down. Too soon. They must have launched early. How long until they catch us? Jace glanced at the small radar screen on the dashboard. 10 minutes. Kaelara turned forward again, her heart pounding. She felt the fear crawling into her chest, but beside it was something else. Resolve. She was done being weak. Done being a gift, a prisoner, or a target. She reached into Jace's pack and pulled out a small pulse grenade. Get us closer to the ridge, she said. What are you doing? She held the grenade tightly. Buying us time. Jace swerved toward a steep rocky ridge. As they reached the top, Kaelara pulled the pin and tossed the grenade behind them. It exploded midair, sending up a wall of dust and sand. The drone behind them spun out briefly, blinded by the blast. Nice throw, Jace muttered. Kaelara gave a small smirk. I was trained for war too. They reached an old shuttle pad buried beneath a collapsed mountain, a secret hangar Jace had discovered years ago. The roof was cracked. The stone was peeling. But the ship inside still worked. Barely. The craft was small, old, rusty, but fast. Jace slammed the controls as Kaelara sealed the hatch. The engines groaned to life. The drone reappeared overhead, now joined by 2 more. They'll shoot us down, Kaelara said. Jace tapped the weapon system. Only if they get the chance. The old fighter launched into the sky, screaming through the clouds, dodging laser bursts as Kaelara fired back from the turret. One drone exploded in a flash of light, but another hit their right wing. The ship shook violently. "Stabilizers failing," Kalara shouted. Jace gritted his teeth and pulled hard on the controls. "Come on, hold together, just a little longer." They broke through the atmosphere. Silence. Stars. Darkness. For a moment, Kalara forgot to breathe. They were free. Almost. Jace set coordinates. "Where are we going?" Kalara asked. "Drift," he said. "A broken moon at the edge of neutral space. No military. No politics. Just outcasts like us." She sat beside him. Sounds perfect. But her hands were still shaking. The ship flew for hours through empty space. Kalara patched the damaged wing, her hands covered in oil and wires. Jace watched her quietly. "You've changed," he said finally. She looked at him. "So have you." Silence again. But this one was warmer. "I used to think strength came from power," she said. "From control. But it's not. It comes from choices. From protecting people even when you're scared." Jace nodded slowly. "You were never weak, Kalara. You just weren't free." Her eyes softened. "And now, you're more dangerous than I am." Later, as they entered Drift's outer orbit, a transmission came through. An old man's voice answered. "This is Haven Station." "Who are you?" Jace responded. "Refugees. No weapons. Just looking for shelter." A pause. Then the reply. "Docking Bay 3. Welcome to Drift." Kalara looked at Jace. "We made it." He didn't smile. Not yet. Drift wasn't a planet. It was a shattered moon. Half rock. Half floating metal. Homes were carved into cliffs and caves. Refugees from every species lived side by side. Children ran barefoot under strange trees. Old warriors sat around fire pits telling stories of better times. Jace and Kalara stepped out of the ship and were met by a tall woman with metal arms and sharp eyes. She didn't ask questions. She just nodded and said, "You look tired." Jace gave a faint smile. It's been a long war. For the first time in weeks, Kalara slept without fear. No walls, no cuffs, no orders. Just a soft bed, a warm blanket, and the quiet hum of people who had lost everything, but still kept going. She dreamed of stars, of Rurak's smile, of Jace's hands pulling her up from darkness. But peace was not safety. The next morning, a trader from the outer sectors brought news. Both Earth and the Zerine Empire have placed bounties, one for a rogue soldier, one for a missing princess. Kalara stood beside Jace as the news played. She looked around, dozens of eyes on them. People whispering, watching. Jace placed a hand on his blaster. Kalara shook her head. "Wait." She stepped forward. Lifting her voice, she said, "We're not enemies. We're not fugitives. We're survivors, and we're not here to hide." The crowd fell silent. Kalara pointed to the screen. "They fear us because we know the truth. Because we chose peace, not their version, our own." Then she looked back at Jace. "I'm tired of running," she said. "Aren't you?" He nodded slowly. "Then let's fight back. But not with guns. With truth. With proof." Jace opened a small case. Inside were files, recordings, war logs. Everything. Everything the leaders didn't want the universe to see. The betrayals. The lies. The missions that cost innocent lives. And the drone footage, showing Kalara and Jace saving alien children, risking everything. Kalara turned to the rebels of Drift. "Help us share this. Broadcast it. Show the galaxy." A woman from the crowd stepped forward. "If you fight for the forgotten, then you're not alone." The final shot of the day was Kalara and Jace standing on the balcony of Haven Station, watching the stars. Not running, not hiding, preparing. Because the real war was about to begin. Not of weapons, but of truth. A warrior's last stand. The message spread like fire across the stars. Jace Ward's war logs, the hidden videos, the children, the broken treaties, the leaders who had lied for years. Kael'Thas's speech, calm, bold, filled with truth, played on screens in black markets, in refugee camps, on pirate ships, even inside military bases. This war was never about peace, she had said. It was about control. But we are not weapons. We are not property. We are people. And we are done being silent. The galaxy listened. And then it roared. Rebel groups sent messages of support. Hidden voices rose from every species, human and Zerine alike. They called Kael'Thas a princess of the people. They called Jace the soldier who switched sides for honor. But not everyone was celebrating. The Earth Federation and the Zerine Empire both declared Jace and Kael'Thas as enemies of the state. They sent fleets, destroyers, drones, assassins. Drift was no longer safe, and everyone knew it. Inside Haven Station's council chamber, the leaders of Drift argued. If we fight, we'll be destroyed, one said. They'll kill us whether we fight or not, shouted another. Kael'Thas stood at the center, quiet but strong. We didn't ask for this war, but we won't run from it either. All eyes turned to Jace. He stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. We fight smart. We don't match their strength. We use their fear. We use the truth. He placed a hand on the table and unrolled a new map, one showing the Federation's communication relays, their supply routes, their weaknesses. Hit them where they can't hide, he said. Then show the galaxy what they tried to cover up. The rebels prepared. Old ships were repaired. New ones were built from scrap. Fighters trained in silence, hidden from sensors. Codes were passed from one sector to the next. Kael'Thas worked beside mechanics, learning to wire systems and command signals. Jace trained young fighters in tactics, how to strike fast, how to vanish, how to protect the weak. At night, Kael'Thas and Jace sat together on the rooftop, watching the stars and listening to the distant radio signals of growing rebellion. He never said it, but every time he looked at her, the unspoken truth passed between them like a breath. They had started as enemies. Now, they were something else. And then, one day, it happened. A traitor inside Haven Station sent the enemy their location. The sky darkened as 3 Federation warships and a Zerine dreadnought entered orbit. The moon shook as weapons charged. Alarms screamed. Jace looked up at the ships through the tower's glass. They're here. Kael'Thas turned to him. We're not ready. He nodded. But we're all we've got. Evacuation started. Civilians boarded escape pods and old mining shuttles. Fighters took positions across cliffs and towers. Kael'Thas stood in front of the control tower, speaking to the frightened crowd. They think we will surrender. They think fear will break us. But we are not broken. We are Drift. And today we fight for the future. The people cheered. Then the first missile hit. Chaos. Fire. Screams. Dust clouds swallowed the station. Jace led a squad of fighters to the main gate. Pulse rifles fired. Explosions echoed. He moved like a shadow, calm, deadly, unstoppable. Kael'Thas stayed in the command center, directing ships, organizing defenses. Her voice rang through the speakers, clear, firm, fearless. We hold until the last shuttle is away. No one gets left behind. A second blast hit the tower. Jace saw it from the field. His heart froze. He ran. Inside the command center, smoke poured through broken walls. Kael'Thas lay pinned under a beam, blood on her forehead. She tried to move. Couldn't. But then hands, familiar, strong, lifted the beam and pulled her free. Jace, his arm was bleeding, his eyes wild. But he smiled. You're not dying today. They ran together through falling walls and burning halls. Outside, the last escape ship prepared for launch. Jace helped Kael'Thas aboard. then stepped back. She grabbed his hand. "What are you doing?" she cried. He didn't answer. He turned, slammed the hatch closed, and locked it. "No, Jace, don't you dare." He spoke through the comm, voice shaking. "They need someone to fly the decoy ship, to draw the fleet away." "Let me do it," she screamed. "No," he said gently. "They need you. You give them hope. You are the voice they believe in. Don't leave me." He closed his eyes. "You saved me, Kalara. You gave me something to live for. Let me give you something back." The decoy ship's engines lit. The real escape ship launched the other way, hidden behind smoke and debris. Kalara screamed his name. But the signal cut out. Jace flew straight at the enemy fleet. Missiles locked onto him. Drones swarmed. He activated every flare, every false signal, every defense system. The enemy followed. And as Kalara's ship vanished into deep space, the explosion behind her lit the dark sky. A star, born from sacrifice. Hours later, Kalara sat in silence in the medical bay. Her hands clenched, her heart numb. But then, a signal blinked on her console. A faint voice. "I told you I was hard to kill." Jace, alive. Badly hurt, but alive. And smiling. A new future. The signal was faint, crackling, broken. But it was him. Kalara stared at the small screen in the escape ship's cockpit. Her fingers trembled as she turned up the volume. "I told you I was hard to kill." Jace's voice, rough, tired, but unmistakably alive, filled the tiny space like sunlight after a storm. "Jace," she whispered. Her heart ached with relief, a storm of emotion surging inside her. "Where are you?" His image flickered on screen, blood on his forehead, one eye nearly swollen shut. But he smiled. "I ejected just before impact," he said. "The wreckage hid my signal. Found an old smuggler base on the dark side of the moon. It's holding together, barely." Kalara's eyes filled with tears. "I'm coming back for you." "No," he said quickly. "You need to keep going. The rebels are waiting. The truth, your message, it has to spread." But Kalara shook her head. "You're part of that truth, Jace. I won't leave you behind." 3 hours later, Kalara returned to the fractured moon of Drift. She landed on the dark side, guided only by his fading signal. The surface was quiet, cold and still, but her heart knew the path. She found him inside a crumbling hangar, slumped against a rusted wall, one arm in a makeshift sling. He looked up as the hatch opened. "Didn't I tell you not to come back?" he murmured. She dropped to her knees beside him. "And when have I ever listened to orders?" He laughed softly, then winced. Kalara helped him to his feet. "Come on, soldier. You're not done yet." Back aboard her ship, Jace finally rested. Kalara flew them toward the rebel fleet, now gathering strength in deep space, far beyond the reach of any empire. As the stars passed outside, Kalara sat beside him, wrapping his hand in hers. "I thought I lost you," she whispered. "You almost did. But I didn't." He smiled faintly. "No, you didn't." The next weeks were a blur of movement. The rebels shared Kalara's speech across every system. Jace's files, proof of missions that violated peace treaties, were broadcast through hidden channels, pirated networks, and black market comms. People listened, more than anyone expected. Protests broke out across Earth colonies and serene cities. Soldiers laid down weapons. Civilians demanded trials, truth, and real peace, not forced deals and fake gifts. Kalara became a symbol, not of royalty, but of resistance, of hope. She stood in front of crowds, no longer dressed in silk or armor, but in worn flight gear, her voice steady. "I was once given away like an object," she said. "Now I choose who I stand beside. I choose truth." Behind her, Jace stood quietly, never speaking much, but always present. Some called him a hero, others a traitor. He didn't care. He only cared about the kids they saved, the people they helped, and the woman who changed everything. One day, a message arrived from the edge of the galaxy. A Zarian elder and a retired Earth general, both once powerful, now exiled. They asked for peace talks, not fake ones, not for media. Real ones, with Kalara and Jace as witnesses. The meeting was held on a quiet moon with no flags, no armies, and no press. Just voices. It lasted 6 days. On the 7th, something impossible happened. They agreed. A new treaty, written in plain words, promising rights for civilians, punishment for war crimes, freedom for refugees, and protections for both species, without secrets. Kalara signed it with steady hands. Jace didn't sign. He simply watched. But everyone knew none of this would have happened without him. After the treaty was broadcast, the war officially ended. Not just with silence, but with change. Kalara and Jace didn't return to palaces or military bases. They returned to Drift, the half-broken moon where it all began. They rebuilt together. Years passed. The children they saved grew up. Some became engineers, some became artists, one became a pilot, and always told stories of a scary-looking human with a soft heart. Kalara taught diplomacy and history. Jace trained rescue squads and quietly fixed things when no one was watching. Their hands still bore scars, but their eyes held peace. One evening, under the twin moons of Drift, they sat outside their small home. Kalara leaned against Jace's shoulder, watching the stars. "It's quiet tonight," she said. He nodded, finally. She looked up at him. "You're not the monster I thought you were." He smirked. "And you're not the royal brat I expected." She laughed. And then, silence again. Not cold, not empty, but full of everything they had lived through. Kalara took his hand. "Do you think the galaxy can stay like this?" Jace thought for a long time. "No," he said, "but that's why people like us keep fighting." She smiled. "Then let's fight. Together." The stars above shimmered. Once she had been terrified of the man they gave her to. Now she had chosen to walk beside him. Free, strong, and unafraid. The war had taken everything. But love, real, steady, hard-won love, had given her more. And this time, no one could take it away. The end.